Hello.
Hello.
It's amazing to have Joe Wells. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Comedian. Joe Wells,
Yes.
comedian.
Yep.
That is that your full job title?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, comedian. I do a bit of writing as well, so
I know. I saw that you wrote stuff for Have I Got News for You?
I've done that. Yeah, a little
Yes,
bit.
yeah.
I've got my
Even
name.
if it's one word, you still wrote it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what you've been doing comedy for a decade now, haven't you? Pretty much.
Yeah, quite a long time.
Yeah, it is. Because you're only just 30 as well, aren't you?
Yes, turned 30 this year.
So, that was an early commitment to I'm getting into comedy. What was the like? So you're 20 years old. You're like, comedy looks like fun. I could do this.
Yeah, I saw Mark Thomas and I saw Ross Noble. Those were the two comics I saw very early on. I just thought they were great. I thought it was amazing that it's just one person and that is a show. Their thoughts and their ideas. I still think it's the best art form you can have. It's very DIY. You can just turn up at an open mic night and just do it. It's open to anyone. And you don't need to bring any kit along. You can just show up and just do it, and you can say whatever you want. And I think that's what I love about it.
Less cost involved. There's only one person to pay. Just me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no. I remember first time I went to Edinburgh for a few days. We went with a musician, and he had like 4 or 5 different instruments. We'd all have to help him out carrying these instruments around. But I just had like a notebook and my rucksack. Yeah, that was all I needed.
So you've been doing this 10 years, and are you now making a full-time living off of just comedy?
I work a few hours a week for a day job, but most of my money comes from comedy. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm so lucky that it's that I can make a living from doing this.
A job that you love.
Mm.
So you're currently preparing your Edinburgh Fringe show, which is Joe Wells doesn't want to do political comedy anymore.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you've been doing political comedy for a long time. So we saw a preview the other week, which was awesome.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Cheers.
Yeah. So the main concept is the fact that you don't want to do political comedy, or
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of jumping point to talk about some other things
Yeah.
and why I did political comedy and yeah, I mean there's lots of reasons. I think that people like Trump are very hard to satirize. Where they're just so ridiculous from the start. Where do you go from that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of news stories now which seem. Because when I did some writing for Have I Got News for You, and there was the stuff around the Trump election. It was just when the stuff about him grabbing women had come out, and it was like so hard to think of like an angle on that was kind of funny and interesting, and that wasn't kind of horrible.
Yeah.
That whole story was really horrible, and I've done kind of topical things where I've had to write for things. The week when there was the children in cages and stuff like that, and you just think, where do you go with that? How do you
make that funny?
Yeah, exactly, and I think there's things I think you can do comedy about anything. This isn't coming from a place of those things shouldn't be joked about, but it's a lot harder to do jokes about children in cages than it is to do. When I started doing comedy, it was MP's expenses, and then this person had a duck house, and this person claimed Maltesers on expenses, and that's quite easy to do that.
Yeah.
But when you've got children in cages and people being assaulted, it's less. It's a more difficult starting point to go from, and I think I just got a bit. I felt quite tired of doing it, really.
Well, yeah, because there's a whole bit in your thing about Trump, and like, I don't want to ruin too much of the show because people need to go see it. But you're very correct. It's impossible to make a man like him funnier than what he already makes himself.
Yeah, well, I remember I was at the Wedgewood Rooms the day that he tweeted about the moon being part of Mars, and I kind of had to read it out and say this is definitely real, and I had nothing I could add to it. That's so you can't, because usually your starting point would be this is a thing a politician's done. Here's that's like doing this, and to come up with kind of exaggerated versions of it,
Yeah.
and try and make it sound more ridiculous than maybe it is. But then where do you go? Like. That's already so insane. I don't know how to take that further.
So, like I said, you've been doing comedy for like a decade now. So you've done just countless amount of gigs. What is the best and worst heckle you've ever had?
So I don't know if it counts as a heckle, but kind of audience bit. Occasionally I do comedy for kids, and literally there's a string of comedy clubs, like a comedy club for kids, and it's literally just adult comics, but they do their sets for children and adapt them so that children can get them. and I wrote some material about having a spaceship. And I went, does anyone else here have a spaceship? And this kid put his hand straight up, and I went, oh, what kind of spaceship do you have? And he said, oh, just quite a basic one, which I thought was brilliant, just really modest, and but also, he's got a spaceship, so quite impressive.
So his level of imagination is, I own a spaceship, but I can't
Just the
go much
standard
higher.
model, yeah.
Not like I've got the best one going. It's got space lasers. No, it's just we got a comfortable bed.
Yeah, a standard spaceship. So I thought that was brilliant. I didn't know how to come back to that, because I thought it was kind of impressive and modest at the same time. With bad heckles, occasionally, particularly like political stuff, it can rile people up a lot, and the worst heckles are people trying to argue with a joke, and then it's kind of turns into a kind of drunk question time, I think. And occasionally I've had kind of things where people wanted to be violent and stuff like that, and things have kicked off, but that doesn't happen as much as, I don't know, heckling doesn't happen as much as people. It's a big people out. That's the thing that people often ask about comedy, but I don't. Because you do stand up.
Yeah, and I've never
had a lot of heck.
No, I've never had it
happen as much as people think, and when it does, it's because you're doing drunk weekend clubs. It's never anything imaginative or very rarely anything imaginative or interesting, or it's just people saying what's on their minds, which is usually not anything interesting.
So what has kept you in the comedy game for so long? Like, you love it and you're making a living from it. Like, what is like the end goal? Is this, are you comfortable where you are, like making a living, or do you want to make a full-time living and then that would be like dream come true? Or have you got like goals you want to get to, like, I want to sell out the Apollo?
Well, this, I mean, so yeah, it's hard to not do too many spoilers from the show, really. There's a lot in the new show about why I did political comedy, and political comedians are quite angry, and one of the things I talk about in the show is that there's a lot of stuff in my childhood which I felt quite angry about, and that political comedy was a kind of outlet to do that. So I've been kind of, I guess, really thinking things a bit this year, and thinking about, well, is that a kind of healthy thing to have as your kind of career, I suppose, that to do that. So yeah, I don't know. That's a difficult question to answer right now, but I'm very lucky that I can do most, and I work a few days a week in another job which I really enjoy, and that I've escaped that that kind of 9 to 5 grind, and I've done something which I started doing as a hobby, and now it's where most of my income comes from. So I have to keep reminding myself to be grateful. When you're, I was driving to Leeds at the weekend. It was a long drive, but that's my job, and I'm very lucky to be able to have a job where I just get to go, stay overnight in Leeds and go visit some things the next day and do a gig, meet some interesting people, have interesting conversations, and do something I really love. I'm very lucky, so should appreciate that more.
So if people want to find out a little bit more about you and like find out where you're playing and anything like that, is it all Joe Wells comedy?
It's joewells.org.uk is my website. I've got some stuff on Bandcamp as well, which is joewells.bandcamp.com.
Cool.
Got my last 3 solo shows there.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
check those out.
There. Yeah.
Also, just quickly, because you've been touring up and down the country, playing loads and loads of gigs, what other comedians have you seen and you've gone, people need to check these people out?
I think there's so many great comics out there that are just on the circuit that, if you were in Portsmouth, I kind of semi-regularly MC the Wedge Rooms in Portsmouth, and they just have, if you go there any week, there'll be 3 really, really good comics on. People I really like John Kearns. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's fantastic. Kind of I don't know how. Like, I suppose people would say it's kind of absurdist, out there stuff, but actually it's got real heart to it, and it's really moving, but at the same time it's very weird and unusual. I love Matt Ewins. I think he's great. His new Fringe show is called Matt Ewins Actually Can I Have 8 Tickets Please? So that when people ask for tickets, they have to say, could I have 2 tickets for Matt Ewins Actually Can I Have 8 Tickets Please? Trying to think, I always go and see Sarah Kendall when I'm up at the Fringe, who's an amazing storyteller, and it is a great comic as well when she's doing her kind of clubby comedy stuff. But in Edinburgh, she does these storytelling shows which aren't as laugh out loud funny as other shows, but are so gripping and so moving, and it's hard to describe what. I mean, she tells a story for an hour, and it's brilliant and moving. It's better than any TV drama I've ever seen. It's amazing. So I think she's fantastic. There's so much. There's so much out there. You can go to any club and I help run the boutique comedy club at the Wave Maiden in Portsmouth, and once a month we have a different headliner, and any of those I think
they've all been amazing. The ones I've been to.
There's so many interesting comics doing different things, and anything that anything you want, there's something out there for you. I think particularly in the kind of internet age, there's now comics finding, like Sophie Hagen, I think something is really interesting where she's doing something that's so I know she's not doesn't do the podcast anymore, but that Guilty Feminist podcast, it's something which 10 years ago was so niche. The idea of doing a kind of comedy show where you discuss feminism would just be too niche. But now, because of the internet, I saw us doing it's doing the Royal Albert Hall. These huge venues are filled by things which 10 years ago would have been very, very niche, because it's easier for people to find their niche now, and that's brilliant. So that I think there is something for you, whatever you like.
Awesome. Oh, that's one of the reasons why I love comedy, because you can go from musical comedy to political comedy to just observational. Like the breadth of it is endless.
Definitely, yeah. Occasionally get people go, I don't really like stand-up, and I just think we haven't seen enough of it, because there's so much variation in it. That there's, and I'm someone that kind of likes all stand-up. Really, there's not many types of stand-up that I dislike, but there's something for everyone out there. You've got to kind of make a bit of an effort to seek it out, I suppose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.